Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Swapnil Varhade with us and a brief introduction of Dr. Swapnil. He has done his bachelor BSMS in chemistry from IISER Pune, India, and then for PhD he joined Max Planck Institute in Germany, and then after his PhD he moved to industry and joined Flemish Research Institute in Belgium, and currently he is a postdoc in University of California, Los Angeles, USA. With this brief introduction, I would like to say thank you, Dr. Swapnil, for taking time out for this conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Rajaji, for having me here. I must say that I have been though lately I've been watching the videos from Empowering Science Foundation. I found I could relate many of the colleagues which you invited in your show, and it has been very relatable journey for me also, and it's very inspiring for me. So I must say that I will follow your channel very frequently because I can relate many of the people there. So yeah, it was very inspiring for me also.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
having me here. Looking forward to the
Absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah, thank you for your kind words. And the idea behind having this researcher celebrity conversation is this only, that we can develop and build this network, this special niche where people, researchers from any stage of their life, can come together and share their journey, share their problems, and help each other in a way like, as you said, that you feel correlated to them. That is the purpose. So, thank you so much. Let's start the conversation. We always start our conversation, as you might have seen already, that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So thinking back, actually, it was not a very straightforward way that I decided that one day I wake up and I wanted to become a researcher, but it was just the instances in the past that which created my research identity here. So if I say very early from the stage, like having an education to become more independent and financially independent, and that was the main aim for that's what the message I got from my father. He has been a very inspiring figure for me because he was always trying to push me and my siblings to get educated to become more independent. So unlike like many other researchers or many other students from India, I was trying to pursue engineering, uh, but somehow in a way it happened that I choose a path to go to IISER Pune, and there I found a very different work culture, the rigorous work culture there, the lab environment, the colleagues, and the curriculum at IISER Pune. I found it very like driving force for me to become a researcher. So in a way that IISER did, the environment there did like inspire me to become a researcher. But another thing happened that we are supposed to do a summer internship during our summer breaks, and I got to know about a lab of Professor Satish Ogle in NCL Pune, and I joined his lab there. And there, I basically got an idea how the applied research works, and he was a fantastic guide in a way that he did inspire me a lot. He was very approachable. Whenever we used to have a one-on-one conversation with Professor Ogle, he used to tell a lot of insights. He used to guide a student in a way that they are always motivated to do research. It was like even though there were failed experiments, he used to teach us like this is not how you should approach. So he kind of guideline that way through me, and that summer internship, basically 3 months internship, ended up having a year-long project with him, and which was a fruitful like experience for me. And by that time, kind of have a sense that I wanted to do research in the first place, and then I started going more to the research field. And then I joined a lab from Professor Mustafa there, who also had a big role for me guiding toward the research career. Because theoretically he was very strong. He was always pushing me. He was always trying to get the curiosity out of me. And they always try to. I mean, there are people who kind of guide you in a certain direction, So those two figure were main figure for me, why I choose to become a researcher and why I like choose whatever I'm doing at the moment. Yeah. So once I finished my master thesis project, there were also instances there, do whether there were many questions whether do I wanted to go for a PhD or do I need to choose a different career path, like my many of my like colleagues went for MBA after research because they were fed up with the research. So there were many questions, but I mean, by end of my master thesis, it was very much clear that I wanted to do research, I wanted to do PhD. And then the next journey comes, like which labs to, there were many questions, which lab to do, where to go. There were many instances that many rejections come from the institutes, and but basically the professors were always there and the colleagues were always there to discuss, and they kind of helped me to create my research identity. Basically it's one way lead to another way. So but looking backward, I cannot imagine myself having a very different career, because I did enjoy all this successes, all these failures, whatever happened, and that somehow created my research identity, and that's how most of the things have been going along all the forward now.
Great. So there are not many researchers who actually had developed this taste of enjoying even the failures, as you mentioned, that enjoyed your success as well as your failures. So let's start the journey from decision of when you made that, okay, I want to do a PhD. As you mentioned, your peers were ready to join either industry or MBA because you already had some internship experience in industry. So, what was the most driving force behind your decision of pursuing PhD? And that too, again, we'll go to another level, that why not in India and why in Germany?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, I mean, I was having a very frequent interaction with my professor during my master thesis, that is it a good option? Because I wanted to pursue PhD in one of the institute in India, but he kind of pushes me to apply outside, because he felt that once you get out of India, there are many different way of thinking, way of culture, you kind of the way of working of people, the exposure, we call it exposure, how the like the outside people work, what is their approach toward the research, it is way different than how people approach to research in India. So he kind of tried to motivate me that if you want to grow as a very good researcher, or you want to have a different perspective of research, he encouraged me to go outside to explore more lab, to follow their research. And he kind of inspired me to apply for all the fellowships and all the like big uh, colleges. We always try to filter the colleges where you want to go for your PhD, right? So it was not a very like easy task, but mostly a back and forth communication with my professor. And by the time I got to know that I wanted to do PhD, he kind of convinced me that I should explore the another option, which is going outside of India, because that kind of helped me to grow more as a researcher. That was the whole driving force, if I wanted to say, for pursuing a PhD outside of India.
Great. So here I would like to take a moment to tell all the aspirants who want to do PhD and who might have got some level of mentorship from their research supervisor in different capacities, as Dr. Swapnil mentioned about approachability. That is the key important part that you should find in your supervisor, either if you are considering them to be your PhD mentor, or if just you want to join a lab for experience for research. Another point what Dr. Swapnil also mentioned is about the work culture. Do you really like the culture of that lab? If you have an opportunity to rotate there, spend a couple of weeks there, so that you know that that environment is conducible to you or not, because everything changes. You are going to spend number of hours every day, every week, every year. and that is to somewhere between 3 to 5 years, depending on where you are doing PhD and how well it goes, is very important, because most of your time when you are awake you are spending there. And if you cannot enjoy the work culture there, as Swapnil mentioned, this is also important part, that you might be passionate about your research, but at the end of the day, or say very basic, we are human beings, we need this place where we can be happy, where we can enjoy it. So with this, I'll come back to Swapnil, that when you mentioned that, okay, your mentor said that, okay, go outside, there is more exposure, and obviously they were more concerned about your growth as a researcher. How that decision turned out when you landed in Germany?
Uh, Yeah, it was a very first time getting outside of India. It was not a very easy journey for me coming from. If you see the curve, basically it's a honeymoon phase first, then the cultural shock phase, then it's kind of getting back to the track and then adapting to the situation. So it was not basically very easy journey. You have to overcome many challenges when you come outside for a researcher. Uh, you have to have like a good interaction with your peers, because that will give you a sense of how basically to approach the problem around the lab. You need to have a very good relationship with your professor where you are doing your PhD. So I mean, it was not a very easy going task. Basically, if I look back to the journey for my time in the Germany, it was a very fruitful journey for me. It was during I wanted to say one thing. It was during a PhD phase. The whole PhD was during a PhD like COVID phase. So basically we have a restricted time there, and we need to finish all the research in during that time frame. If I see, uh, because it was a very difficult period all around the globe, and having a PhD during COVID, it's not a very easy task for me. But somehow the colleague, the professor, and everyone around me were very supportive in a research problem. But basically, I used to have many one-on-one conversation with my professor, and from that conversation, I always get a new insights. Basically, it helped me a lot. One-on-one conversation with the PI helped me a lot, because uh, he knows my space and I know his space, and we kind of sitting together on the table. We discuss everything, put everything on the table, and that's how I think the research and one-on-one growth is beneficial. If you want to grow, I would say do communicate more with your PI, do communicate more with the colleagues, because through discussion only you will get to know a lot of things. So that was how I approached my PhD also. I used to frequently communicate with my colleagues, frequently communicate with my PI, and I mean, the perspective what I learned from them and what they learned from me was a way fruitful for each of us, because it's a basically there are certain approaches to the problem which cannot be tackled alone yourself, because it's not like if it's not very easy task to tackle a problem alone. You need a support from your colleagues, you need a support from your PI guides, like guides. So in that way, the frequent communication did help me a lot, and somehow I ended up having a fantastic. I mean, even though I failed, I my professor used to say I failed better. So it's like every time the failure happens, it was a learning process, back and through iteration of failures and learning new things, because this nanoscience scale, like if you wanted to do research, and when you go more smaller in the scales, the things becomes more and more complicated. And to approach that complicated problem, you need to have a different approach, different perspective. So that perspective kind of I get it more from the discussion from my colleagues, my PIs. So whole journey was a very fruitful for me. And I mean, for having intelligence is one thing, and having persistence to the journey is another thing. I mean, I used to say a lot to my students also here, that even if you are a gold medalist from certain Indian institute, if you don't have a resilience or you don't have a persistent nature of working again and again, research don't need that kind of mentality at all. So Looking backward, the PhD journey was very fruitful for me. Back and forth iteration of failures that helped me a lot to grow as a researcher. And when I see it, it was I found it very fruitful for me. It's a personal growth for me as well as my research identity as well.
Absolutely. I think this is where I remember Dr. Tia, my PhD supervisor. He mentioned that PhD doesn't change your name only, it changes your personality. As you mentioned, it is even the personal growth, not only the academic growth. And I see that now I get this hint that why you say that you enjoyed the success as well as failure, because the perseverance was the key for you. You were like, okay, I'm not ready to give up, I am persevering this until I succeed. And I think that is the attitude what any researcher should have it, and all through their career, starting from either pre PhD time or during their doctoral time, and then always go there. So you mentioned the importance of teamwork, how, and also the communication, how when you are talking to your PI or your peers in the lab, that whenever you face a trouble or failed experiments, all of that. Let's take a minute to see that what works the best for you when it came to the field experiments.
Uh, yeah, so when you talk about the field experiment, the frequent communication has to be there. Like there are very minute things like you kind of maintain your notebooks, you kind of maintain your minute things, what changes you did and all. So that is an important thing. But a frequent communication between colleagues, it's very important whenever it comes to the field. So what I learned from my PhD experience and my experience from postdoc is that uh, when you try to work on a problem which is basically a scale up problem where you have to go to the field and you have to work there. So if you communicate very nicely, very whatever the minute details you have been observing with the colleagues, there are many times you will find that uh, the if you are not able to tackle that issue, your colleague can come up with a certain idea which can help you, and it's basically uh, growing each other, growing like it's if I wanted to say it correctly, it's like holding our hands together and growing each other together and tackling that problem. Because I see many people just whenever it comes to field work, if let's say one failed experiment, two failed experiment, three failed experiment, and at a certain time they just don't discuss that problem with anyone around, and they just give up that it's not working. What should I do? And they went to this demotivation phase. Uh, while handling this, I found it very interesting that if you don't discuss, if you don't talk to your colleagues, it can kind of give you a phase where you demotivate and self question yourself. But I think only by tackling and like discussing very frequently, having very frequent communication, uh, I think many problems can be solved. We can focus more on solving the problem rather than focusing on your individual contribution, how you are contributing to the project. So if you just focus on solving that one problem, because in industry also they are looking for people who can solve more problem. It's not like you have to I mean, research is one thing and problem solving is another thing. So in industry, when you go for field work, they look for people who can solve a problem for you, doing a team effort. So that there the communication is the key. Basically come together, sit on the table, discuss everything, what problems we are facing, how we can tackle this problem and how we can go forward. That is the main key, I think, when you go to the field work and work in a team. So that was a very major experience for me working in Belgium when I was doing my postdoc for scale up of the technology. And when you go to scale up of the technology or let's say company, it's a completely different environment from your research lab. When you work on the lab bench, it's a one thing. Doing independent research is one thing, and working in a team, going to the industry and solving a majority of the scientific problems so that you can commercialize that technology, it's a different another league. So there is a huge difference that you have to balance that somehow. And for me, if I look for backward to my experience in a company in Belgium, that has been a very communication has been a very key key pro like key uh, I would say it's a key for for all the discussion. So frequent communication is the key, I would say.
Absolutely. And I think another point which you mentioned here is more important and very crucial, like when the concept of teamwork comes. Instead of working towards a problem just by yourself, you should be more focused that how as a team you can solve it, and vice versa, like when you are the team member for someone else and solve that problem, so that it is a efficient, b time saving, and also it saves a lot of resources. So say if one person is going to hit the wall again and again and again without asking, as you said, communication is the key. You just go talk to your supervisor, talk to your peers who might have experienced something similar, might not have. But once you are in talking terms with all of them, they are there with their expertise, with their own experiences, which might solve your problem, which if you're just working by yourself might take a week and is done in an hour. So a you save that many of resources with all those prospective field experiments, which on top of that will bring the frustration, because now we are going to talk about it. Because when you mentioned that you have worked in India, in Germany, then Belgium, now in United States, so you have worked in three different setups. Okay, India, Europe, United States. You have been exposed to three different work cultures as intended by your supervisor or your mentors early in your career, where they want you to pursue your PhD outside. So let's talk about the differences in the workplaces in India, or just about the work culture in India, in Europe, and United States. Based on your experience, if you have to guide, motivate, or advise the future generation in India, which are planning to, or either thinking in dilemma that should they do their research career in India or outside. Let's hear from you.
Yeah. So let's start with talking about India because that's how all of my research identity started. So working in India was basically it's a way different work culture. That is absolutely true. Working in India, basically, I know there are many. I have seen many conflicts of people complaining a lot that the work culture is very toxic and all, but looking backward, I find it very fruitful uh, because working in India was basically, if I see myself, it created my identity as a researcher. It gave me a lot of insights into basic things, how a research has been done, how to practice basically ethical practices in research, and all the small things I learned, I developed myself there back in India. So in one way, if I wanted to see, I don't see the work culture in India very toxic. I find it very uh, like a learning thing for me because it kind of help you to identify whether you wanted to it helped me kind of basically to create my identity in a research field. It teaches me a lot. Uh, of course, when I moved from India to Germany, the work culture has been different because in Germany, in Europe, people basically you don't have to work extra hours and all. There are very limited time frame where people do come to lab, people do work, and afterward they dedicate that time to your personal. They dedicate the remaining time to their personal life. So in one way, I found the work culture in Europe is very efficient in a way because there are they have a facilities, very good facilities there. In India, there are certain energy you have to spend to get everything done. I That was the one major difference I find, and you don't need to manage a lot of people in Europe when working in Germany because it's very straightforward. They have the facilities there, they have to do it. In India, I agree there are now a lot of things changing around, but there are certain barrier when it comes to doing a research, and that barrier actually somehow it's a very time consuming and energy consuming. I feel in that way. And uh, after Germany coming to the Belgium was a different experience because it was more like a engineering viewpoint. Because working in a company, they tackle a problem more like an engineering way, not a research way. So in Germany, in Belgium, the experience was more like a engineering approach. It's not about the research approach. So that way, it was a way different league when you talk about research, doing a research in a lab and doing a problem solving things in a company. So it's a two different league. I would say one has to come out of their comfort zone. One has to tackle or approach the problem very differently. One has to uh, talk with your manager. One has to talk with your HR people very frequently. You have to also talk to techno-economics people. So it's a way different game when you go to the company. And then again, after that, working in a European environment, I moved to US. So US culture is more like very demanding. I find it. Uh, Basically, there are more expectation from you when you are working in the lab. You have to have a amount of work. You have to also uh, attend some classes. You have to also teach the students. You have to also manage people around. So I find it comparatively US work culture more demanding than India and Europe. And but overall, all the three was more or less like very fruitful. If I wanted to say, just that your approach, your perspective, how you wanted to do. If I wanted to do research, this is what I choose. If you are very willingness to dedicate your time and efforts, I think that's the most important thing. Work culture and these things, it does matter, but it's more like your willingness to give uh, for the research. So I feel it in that way.
Absolutely. And I think that is the best way to put out the words, because, as you mentioned, choices are what you make. It was your choice to move from India to Germany, then to Belgium, and now to United States. Yes, you are passionate about your research, you know what you're going to do, but there are these hidden things, like when we talk about, like different type of work cultures. This brings us to our next question of work-life balance, which some people think it goes hand in hand, but we do want to share this of your journey with our audience here, that based on your experience, now if you have to recommend someone, that how you experienced the work life balance in India, in Europe and United States, so that if they are in either in dilemma, because now Indian researchers, like, in India we have a very grown identity of researchers which we produce every year. As you mentioned, that is a very good point to bring out, that how all of our researcher identity, if we have done our PhD in India, is because of what we have been trained for. We might or might not follow the same, but the integral part of our personality as a researchers remains the same. We move to different countries, continents, might take up their culture, but nothing changes the foundation whatever we get there. And I think that is part of the reason why Indian researchers are celebrated or are invited globally, because of the training what we get in India. So now let's talk about the work life balance.
So if you talk about work-life balance, it's a like when you talk about in India, you have a very friendliness and the colleague towards you to talk to. But if you see that same thing in European culture, people are a little bit very conservative, uh, in the sense like they don't. In Germany, basically, when I wanted to say that they don't open very easily with you as you wanted to have it in India. So in that sense, the work culture in India, even if you are working 2 hours, you don't feel it that way because you are spending your time with your colleagues, and it's basically you are discussing many things, and you won't feel that extra 2 hours very burdening. But when you try to do the same thing, it's like you need to find people around you when you work in Germany. Uh, so you cannot do I mean you cannot do research all the time. You need to find a way outside of your life when, let's say, there are certain restrictions, certain boxes that people maintain in Europe that uh, you have to overcome the friendliness with them. So if you wanted to see in that way, the work culture in India and Europe It's basically there is a big difference there. So to overcome that work culture, like I said in the beginning, to overcome that challenge, basically you need to maintain this relation. You need to communicate with the people there. So it's basically a barrier. I feel like it was a barrier for me, but with certain time, I ended up having very good friend there, and the work-life balance was, as I said, there were times I need to spend because it's your thesis, it's your PhD. There are time where you need to give extra time to it to get long nights to get the experiments done to publish a paper. So it's your willingness to give time. No one forces me to work, let's say after 6. When you talk about 9 to 6 work culture in Europe, no one forced me to work after 6. But it's more like my own PhD, whether I need to have an outcome from it, whether I need to publish a high impact factor out of it. So it's your willingness to give more time. If you find it let's say you don't want it to work, it's there was no restriction at all. Even in India, even in Germany, there was no restriction. It was mostly from my own time, my own willingness that I was able to put. I did not see it more like a work-life balance way, because as long as I'm learning, I'm getting output, I'm improving myself in a research, I find it very this argument of having a good work-life balance, and this, it's a way personal to people. Some people might find it that the work-life balance is very uh, like good for them in certain place, and other place they find it very different. But overall, if I see the difference, I don't find it much. My personal opinion is that I find it very uh, uh, like I don't wanted to complain it that that the Indian work culture is toxic or European work culture is nicer. No, I find it very uh, fruitful for me. Both the work culture, even in US, even if it's a demanding work culture, it's my willingness to spend the time. It's my efforts which I wanted to give, which I wanted to grow. I wanted to do the high impact factor paper because that's how I see myself. It's more like your personal willingness to do rather than complaining about the work-life balance. I feel it in that way.
No, I think that is the best way. And as you started with, these are the choices which you made. So you enjoy your work, you do not see work life balance separately. And I think the best way, the way you said, is it is so personal and individualistic depending on the commitment of the person or the researcher here included. So, with all that in mind, let us hear your thoughts on burnout. Do you believe that researchers come to at a point in their lifestyle or in their career stages at different times where they are like whatever they are doing is not working, and that
Uh,
probably is the time when they are burnout? So, what are your thoughts and experiences about it?
I think there are instances during all this research journey that you will start self-questioning if things are not working around. You will find there are, I just wanted to don't pursue this anymore. There are many times you will feel in that way, but I would say take a break during that time. Whenever you have having double thoughts about your work, I would recommend people to just take a break, uh, enjoy a time with your family, go around, just talk to people, and then once you come up with a fresh mind, just approach the same problem with a fresh mind, and it will be a complete different experience. Because I have experienced this burnouts where I was completely fed up, so I just go take a break, come up with a fresh mind, approach the problem, and it's sorted out. Everything sorted out, and we ended up having a good amount of work done, good amount of publications coming out of it. So because I mean, publication is one or another way. There is a way to judge the researcher. That's unfortunate way, but if you wanted to say you are getting judged from the outcomes you are getting, get out of your work. So basically, this is how I think it's an unknown truth around the world that they do follow the number of publications, the high impact factor paper, and all. But if you wanted to do that, whenever you feel burnout, I would say take a break, come back with a fresh mind, and yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that is very important. And we do talk about in these conversations with our researchers, we want to bring this out up more and more that burnouts are a real thing. Either you are a researcher or not. For any person, if you are going to do one thing 365 days a year, there is normal, like even sometimes monotonous life, monotonous experiments, even if they are failing, that's like next level of stress. But monotony brings this thing that where you might feel burnout and you just need to take a break, rejuvenate yourself. And then again, as you mentioned, after taking the break, everything is working. Now you are getting more work done, efficiency in your project, time management, and everything. Now everything looks that, was this the same problem which was not working when I was before this break and after this break? So that was great. So now when we are almost now walking towards the edge of the conversation, I would like to know that if you have to now, because now you are in this stage that where you are starting preparing or training the next generation of researchers. So, if you have to give advice to the young researchers in India or globally, true, that what are the few things, like say three bullet points, they have to be very considerate before committing their life to research?
Yeah. So I would like to give an analogy to that. Whenever you wanted to do research, think of a 100-meter race and a marathon. So basically, I see research as a marathon where you have to keep doing the things again and again, very persistently. You need to have will, very strong will that I know that problem will be get solved. This problem will be solved. It's just that the approaches we might need to change different ways. Uh, that is the very main thing. Persistence all through the journey. Then a strong will that I can solve this problem. I have a capacity to solve this problem. This strong will is very helpful during the journey. And very third thing, I think I always get this advice because I am also like when I started my career, I was also very impatient. So during all the journey, I was way impatient because I also used to get frustrated a lot. But with time, with the colleagues and talking to my mentors, it's always I get advices from them that your generation is very less impatient. So it's like you need to have patience. You know that things will solve. Be patient, and things will solve. Just keep working on the problem. Keep approaching it different ways. Keep talking. So you need to be have very patient, strong willness, patient, and you need to also like take a break in between to get yourself motivated so that you don't feel a burnout all the way around. That was the main message for me to all the researchers around that you know the problem will be solved. It's just that you need to have a strong willness that it will solve. I just need to focus it different way. I need to approach it different way and be patient. Be patient. Just don't lose the confidence in you whenever you have self doubts. Take a break, but be patient. Come up more confidently to the problem.
Yeah, I think if we just sum up everything, it will be perseverance is the key. You might have to change your approaches, you might have to take breaks, you have to be have patient. If you persevere, you are a great researcher. Thank you so much, Dr. Swapnil, for sharing the journey and the experiences alongside giving these guidance points to the researchers who are listening to this conversation all around the world. At the end, we always say that to all the audience that if you want to write to Dr. Swapnil, you can write directly to him. If you want Empowering Science Foundation to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are always there to help you. The only thing which we want from you is your passion for research, your perseverance for research, and we are here to help in all the capacity what we can. The one thing also which we are going to launch soon in 2026 is a mentor mentee program where our researcher celebrities can actually mentor you, and you all obviously have to pick your mentors and couple of them, and then we work together to team you up so that you get what all you want from them. And the mentor part here is that they are sharing their journey and guiding and training the next generation of researchers. With this, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Swapnil. for the
Thank
time
you.
here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajaji, for having me. It was a very great conversation with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And for all the audience, we'll say stay tuned for another episode of Researchers Celebrity.